it depends whether we're taking somebody who's currently in employment, and if that's the case, it's difficult to take somebody else's manager if they're already managing another club, because we may have to pay compensation. It may be a case of we've earmarked the manager, but we're waiting for their contract to run down at a certain club and then we can appoint them. Or even if a manager's out of work, they may be on gardening leave somewhere else, that they may be being paid by the club that have dismissed them. And we may be having to wait for that period to be sorted out before we could appoint them. So, as we say, we don't know who the next manager is going to be at the moment. I mean, Clint Hill was somebody I mentioned the night that Mickey got sacked. I don't think it's going to be Clint Hill. I know that his name was floated a couple of weeks ago, but at the moment, whatever happens, he could be involved in the playoffs with Stockport. So he could be involved in the playoffs until the end of May. And I think we need somebody in, if nothing else, the first week that the season finishes to sort out the retain list and start making plans for next season. And really, you talk about the planning, and you're absolutely right. In terms of bringing players in, we need to have earmarked targets already to go into the transfer market and to basically try and get ahead of the game, because it does feel as though in recent years, for a variety of reasons, particularly after we got promoted into League One, we took our eye off the ball in terms of summer recruitment, and then we were scrambling around to try and get a team together, and we saw what happened. So it is a surprise that we haven't got somebody in yet. Ideally, and I think I said this the night that Mickey got sacked, that we would have liked somebody in maybe now to sort of have a watching brief. But the reality is, if it's somebody who's currently in a job, they will be seeing out their contract at their other club. And there are other factors which may mean that we can't publicly say who the manager is yet. We could have somebody in the background who was watching on, but of course things do tend to leak out, and we've not really had a sniff of anybody being appointed or being close to being appointed at the moment. We've obviously seen the figures in the main stand, people like Carl Robinson and other managers who are currently out of work. Darrell Clark gets dismissed at Port Vale, and the rumour mill starts churning straight away. I think we both contributed to that, by the way, when Port Vale got rid of their manager. And you think, oh, he wouldn't be a bad manager. But who knows? I mean, he's had obviously real trauma in his private life over the last 18 months or so, and he may want a period away from the game. So we just don't know. But yeah, football fans don't like uncertainty. And at the moment, as far as we're concerned, there is uncertainty. Within the club, they may have that clear plan, but either they don't have it or they're not telling us what it is yet.
I'm just looking back at a little bit of Tranmere history. 2014-15 season, obviously, when they were relegated out of the Football League, 25th of April, so pretty much 8 years ago today, which is fairly disgusting. It is that Plymouth game took place. I don't know how it seems 8 years has passed, but it has. Obviously, they were looking for a new manager at that point, and that season finished on the 2nd of May with that rather depressing 1-0 defeat at home to Bury. 3 days later, Gary Brabham was appointed as Tranmere manager. So this season is the only real situation of parallel, I think, for Mark Palios, because Mickey Mellon obviously didn't leave straight away after the 2019-20 season was curtailed. But this has been something that has happened in Tranmere's history under Mark Palios before. And within 3 days of the season finishing, he'd appointed a new manager. Now, granted, there wasn't a 6-week run-up to the final day of the season without having a manager, but it shows that he has had it done quickly before or at the conclusion of the season. And that summer proved to be a fairly successful one for Tranmere in terms of the recruitment they did. Obviously, if you think of some of the linchpins of Tranmere's double promotions, Norwood, Harris and Scott Davis arrived that summer. If they can do something similar and appoint within 3 days of the season finishing and then have a big transfer market, we'd be fairly happy. Lots of big ifs, but I guess that's what they'll be aiming for.
Yeah, and that could be the plan that's in place at the moment, but they don't want to obviously go too soon and say something. And I would understand that if that is the case, and if they do appoint, say, on the 8th of May or on the 10th of May, and then players start arriving fairly soon after that, then I think that it all makes sense looking at the way things are now at the moment. But of course, at the moment, as we say, we are in limbo. We aren't sure what's going on, and matches are taking place. And, I know social media is not the best gauge of what's going on, but certainly those on social media are not particularly bothered about what's going on at the moment. People say, I can't really get up for it. I haven't bothered going. It's a nice day. I've done something with the family. And that's the way it is at the moment, because I wouldn't say we've been spoiled in recent years, but we have had so much drama at the end of the season, whether it's been going up or going down or fighting into the playoffs. And it's probably to go back to the season when Les Parry was sacked and Ronnie Moore came back, 2011, 2012. That's the last time really that we've never really challenged. I mean, even the season when we were top of League One and then we fell away, we were still sort of involved until maybe the final 6 games or so. This has been a real culture shock. And if you're a younger Tranmere fan, you've never experienced this sort of period of quite mundane football. I mean, those of us who are a bit older might say, get used to it. You've got decades of this to come. Well, we've had decades of it previously. But I can understand why people are fairly downbeat at the moment, and they're waiting for positive news. And we may have to wait a bit longer.